Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 PGA Championship Initial Research Show. We are at the second major of the season, the PGA Championship at Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But first, I hope you all had a better weekend than I did. I've got a couple of shout outs for you all that two of my friends and subscribers have hit this weekend on KH Lee. The first being Bobo. Mentioned him last week, who had a big hit on Max Homa. He ran it back, made it back-to-back weeks with KH Lee and Max Homa. So congratulations, Bobo. And Micah also had a big hit today on KH Lee. So congratulations to you two. And if you had some hits this weekend, either outright wagers or in DFS, please let me know. Social media, in the comments, or email or whatever. I want to be able to shout you out too. But it was a marginal week for me. Not anywhere close to KH Lee. I was doing all sorts of research, showed you all at the beginning of the DFS show, and then proceeded not to pick the damn guy that I was researching. So, hey. DFS was marginal. Had a lot of right picks, I felt like, just not on the same team. It happens. I was very high on Spieth, very high on Schauffele, who made a huge run Saturday and Sunday. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that comes out to a marginal week. But we are ready for the second major of the season, so let's get right into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is simply the best tool out there. Go check them out. You will not regret it, especially in a popular week like this where a lot of DFS contests are out there. It's going to give you a big leg up on your competition. It's well worth the investment. In the descriptions of the shows for all three streaming services, there are links to my social media. This is where I place my betting cards for golf and some interesting research that I do throughout the week for golf and baseball. It is where I led you all, hopefully, to bet Max Homa a couple of weeks ago. It is where I posted a couple of interesting facts about KH Lee last week. Proceeded not to picking, but hey, I had posted a couple of interesting facts. And we'll see what I can dig into for the PGA. As you all probably know, the last time Southern Hills was seen was the 2007 PGA Championship. Tiger Woods won that major. Which one did he not win? But Tiger won that one over Woody Austin by a couple shots, so we have a little bit to look forward to there. But social media is where I post any interesting research that I find. And if you want to see or join me in some research, generally I do that on Tuesdays, pretty much all day. Maybe get up for a break every once in a while. But if you want to be a part of that or see what kind of research I do, let me know in the comments or again on social media. I would be more than happy to set up a live stream. Probably not something formal like a full show like this, but just let me know if there's interest out there in that. And then finally, we are live. Chat is open. I want to hear from you all. How did your Byron Nelson go? Did you have KH Lee? Did you have Neiman and Spieth and all these other guys that were trending upward in DFS? I want to hear about your whole weekend, and then anything about the PGA coming up. Who are you focusing on? Who do you think are some sleepers that we should be looking into this week? So here for all of that. Let's not waste any time. Let's do our initial research for the 2022 PGA Championship. We move over to the GCSAA tournament fact sheet. And before I get too much further, there have been quite a few withdrawals and ads and such, and that's what this pretty little paper here is for. So the players that have withdrawn in chronological order: Jimmy Walker, I'm going to butcher his first name, so Higa from Japan has withdrawn. Harris English still not healthy. Hey P, how you doing? How was your weekend? Yeah, it was a marginal weekend for me. Little good here, little bad there. Didn't bet KH Lee, but hopefully you had some success. Did you have A bunch of the Shoffley, who I was pretty high on. Then again, DJ I was really high on and looked good for one day and then looked like shit for three. How'd your weekend go? But coming back to the withdrawals and such, I mentioned Jimmy Walker, Higa, Harris English still not 100% healthy. He's not playing this week. The big name, the defending champion Phil Mickelson is not playing. Davis Love III, Paul Casey, and Sung J M have withdrawn this week. And taking their spots are Brendan Steele, Bo Hostler, Kramer Hickok, Charles Schwartzel, Adam Shank, Russell Knox, Scott Stallings, and Joel Damon. So if there are any more field changes that happen tonight during the show and you see it posted in chat, I will make sure to update you all every night this week, the Data Dive and the DFS Tactics show. But we are, as I mentioned, at Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is a long par 70, measures just over 7,500 yards at 7,556. Relatively small greens, just over 5,000 square feet. The average tour green is 6,000 square feet. There is quite a bit of fairway and quite a bit of rough. 87 bunkers, 3 water hazards, but 15 holes with water in play. We are going to go through hole by hole here in a minute on Pro Visualizer. We are on bent grass, so we're definitely going to be looking at bent grass performance. The past 2 tournaments, fortunately, have been on bent grass, the Wells Fargo and the Byron Nelson. Now, the Byron Nelson statistics obviously won't be in Fantasy Nationals tonight, but they should be loaded in tomorrow. We can take a look at who some of the players are that might have played both events, or at least one of the two, to see how they performed on the greens. This course went through a complete restoration in 2019 using what it says here, original photos, member input, and all that stuff. So it is going to play a bit different than 2007's PGA edition. The architect, Perry Maxwell, we don't have anything to look at specifically in Fantasy National there. Let's see. I believe that is the big takeaways from a informational standpoint, the GCSAA fact sheet. So long par 70 as a major, it's going to be set up very difficult. Little bit smaller than average greens, size of greens. Quite a bit of holes with water in play. Supposedly, we're going to see that here in a moment in Pro Visualizer. Bent greens, I imagine they're going to be fast, but we'll see. Rough is Bermuda and fescue Bermuda all the way through, actually, until you get to the green. So that is a look at Southern Hills from an informational standpoint. I'm going to close that. Actually, you know what? I might leave it open. Let's go ahead and go to Pro Visualizer. As to be honest with you, I was not paying a lot of attention to golf in 2007, so I can't tell you much of the course. So let me bring up this tab here. I'll show you a quick little thing here. I've got a scorecard that's listed here that will hopefully help explain the yardages more than Pro Visualizer will. Pro Visualizer has this at just over 7,400 yards. That's what it is normally played at, members and such, but they've lengthened it by 120 yards for the PGA this year. So bring back chat. All right, so let's go through this. Let's go hole by hole here. We have hole number 1 on the PGA scorecard. It is a par 4, 468. So Pro Visualizer actually has this a little bit longer than the PGA setup, but about what it is. Looks like a fairly innocuous par 4, probably at least seemingly pretty easy. No water, I don't think. Maybe some tree-lined fairway. Missed the bunkers on the left. Pretty straightforward hole to start with, it looks like. We move to hole 2, which is a 500-yard par 4. So right off the bat here, hole number 1 might ease you into the round, and then I imagine this will be one of the tougher holes on the course. You carry the water or avoid it left, and then approach a green that looks like guarded by bunkers and I guess it looks like a creek or tributary or something that protects the green long. But there is the first hole with water in play, just a long and a beast of a par 4 it looks like. Hole 3, a 472-yard par 4, so you can see where the length is starting to differ from Pro Visualizer and the PGA setup scorecard. So again, I'm using Pro Visualizer to give us a look, an idea of how each hole is set up. But this yardage is not going to be accurate for the PGA Championship that is on the tab that I am looking at over here on the left. So 472-yard par 4, again, seemingly fairly straightforward. Dogleg left. I'm not sure if this is rough or maybe a goalie or something. I'm not sure. With these photos being taken when the ground is bare, it's hard to see. It doesn't look like water comes into play too much, although this probably will count as one of the holes with water in play. It might be in play for me, but it is not for the pros. There is a look at the fairly straightforward, seemingly par 4 third. The fourth, a short 377-yard par 4. Again, doesn't look like water in play unless this is a dried out creek or tributary. Seemingly a very straightforward short par 4. I imagine this might be one of the easier holes on the course. Again, not knowing anything about green complexes and whatnot, or any of the bunkerage here at Southern Hills. That'll be part of what I look into tomorrow for you all. But a seemingly straightforward par 4. The lone par 5 on the front, 656 yards. Yes, that's right, 656 yards. This will this will be an absolute 3-shotter. It looks like you have to avoid trees on the left, which will seemingly probably point your eyes to the right and probably land you in these bunkers if you are not accurate. And then a long setup for a wedge into a green looking like it is protected by bunkers on the left and the creek running through the course on the right. So a true 3-shot par 5 here. That looks like it's going to be a bit of a wedge here. The last hole was a wedge. I'll make the course setup, composition, and the estimated approach shot for tomorrow. Been tidying up quite a lot of loose ends today between golf and baseball streams, so I don't have that for you all tonight, but I'll have it for you all tomorrow before we really dig into the data. So long 3-shot par 5 here on the 5th. The 6th, the first of the par 3s on the course, 214 yards, guarded by the creek or river or whatever in the front. Straightforward, 214 yards is what it says on the PGA scorecard. Okay. And not much analysis, just carry the water. Par 4, 8th, par 4, 7th, 490 yards. Long par 4 again. Creek, river on the right that is protecting the green. I would imagine there's quite a bit of runoff down into the creek here on the right, and long probably. Okay, with this being Bermuda fairway and Bermuda rough, I would imagine they've got it set up to where if you are off of the fairway, that ball is going to nestle down and settle down in some deep Bermuda rough. You kind of saw that a little bit at the Wells Fargo. Not so much this past week with Zoysia everywhere for the Byron Nelson, but you really saw that a lot at the Wells Fargo. But anyway, long par 4, 7th hole here, 490 yards. I would imagine this might be one of the toughest holes on the course, this one coming up. The par 3 8th measures 251 yards. I would have to imagine this is an elevated tee, because if not, that is an absolute brute of a par 3. This is reminding me of Kiowa last year, where some guys were having to hit drivers into par 3s with the winds. Which, speaking of wind, I'll have Wind Finder up. We'll take a look at that towards the end of the show. Make sure you put it in chat if I forget to bring that up for you all. But a long par 3 here, 251 yards. So you can see where some of the length of this course is coming in. A long par 3, well, 2 long par 3s to be fair, 214, 251 yards. Now a 650 plus yard par 5. A lot of length in the par 5s and the par 3s so far. And to round out the front 9, you've got a par 4, short par 4, 391 yards. Again, looking like a drive where you avoid some fairway bunkers, seemingly trees guarding the left, which will bring your eyes to the right, trying to tempt you into going into those. Okay, pretty short par 4 here. Looks like driving accuracy being the key so far. So on the front 9, we have a par 35. Again, this is a par 70, so only one par 5 per 9. 3,813 yards on the front. So very, very long front 9. We move to the start of the back 9, around the turn. A short-ish par 4 here, 441 yards on the PGA scorecard. Looks like, again, you probably have either a creek, river, probably dried up in this photo, but you probably have to stay short of that. Yeah, so it says 260 here. I'd imagine this is, a 3-wood or a long iron to not go into this creek here, setting up a medium length iron into a green completely surrounded by bunkers. That looks like a hole that is, or a green complex that is particularly nasty. But 441 yard par 4 to start off the back 9. Hole 11, short par 3, 173 yards on the scorecard. So about the length here. This water was absolutely being played for me. Does not look like it'll be there for the pros. Maybe back here to the left if you really get wayward with your T-ball, but just looks like a straightforward bunker protected green. Again, not knowing a lot about these green complexes, I'll have to research that for you all tomorrow and get a feel for the undulations and how difficult these greens can be. Probably have to look at that from 2007 and get a feel from other pundits in the industry. But hole 11, par 3, no water in play since pros are playing it. Absolutely all the water in play if I were. Hole 12, middle length par 4, 456 yards. A pretty severe dogleg left, it looks like. Creek protecting the approach on the right and short and right. All right, so I'm already getting a feel for what we're going to be wanting to look at here. It's going to be a lot of fairways. It's probably some long irons as well, but it's seemingly the fairways are just going to be such a premium with this Bermuda rough. The looking like tree-lined fairways, accuracy is going to have to be a premium. Probably no big surprise this being a major. So trying to get a feel for what we're going to want to look at. But a severe dogleg left, par 4, 456 yards on the scorecard here for the 12th. The 13th, the last par 5 of the course, 632 yards. I would imagine for the biggest of big hitters, this might be reachable in 2 if players want to take a chance. There looks to be probably a couple of ponds in front of this green here, heavily protected as well with bunkers. It is certainly a big risk reward, at least from the aerial view here, and I'm assuming this is Google Earth. I don't know. It's whatever Pro Visualizer uses. But a severe risk reward par 5. Let's see. Do I need to come back? Yeah, there we go. More than likely, I would imagine most players are going to lay up to here and try to set up a wedge to try and make their birdie. But I imagine, given some favorable wind or right conditions, they might try to go for it in 2, depending on how they have the back up here set up. If it's truly penalizing, then players will probably just elect to lay up. But if you can play from back here, I imagine a lot of players might want to try to take this water out of play. So that is the par 5 13th, 632 yards. 14, long par 3, 230. Again, this looks like a bit of water over here, not in play for the pros. Depending on how this tree overhangs the approach, might have to cut something around that. Just not sure. But another green, heavily protected with bunkers. I imagine this is probably a sloped or tiered green with a lot of options for pins. I could see one back right, probably all the way in the front here. I could see one right in here, mid left or so. Bring these 2 bunkers into play. So, long par 3, probably pretty difficult, depending on wind. Hole 15, short par 4, 417 yards. Looks like a forced layup off the tee with fairway bunker left at about 280, and then the fairway runs out to the long and right to a seemingly narrow green. Again, well protected with bunkers. There's not any water on this hole, so assuming that the tree-lined fairway is what is the protection for this hole, plus the bunkerage. So pretty straightforward par 4 here, hole 15. Hole 16 is the absolute brute of this course, at least by the scorecard. Par 4, so you see members play this as a par 5. This is a par 4, 527 yards. Just an absolute monster of a par 4 here. You've got a long and accurate needing tee shot to an approach where these 2 ponds are on the par 3 the long par 5 that we looked at on the backside. These are the 2 ponds on 13, and now 16's coming back the same way. So very interesting there. But a long par 4, so guaranteed a 200 plus iron approach here. That's just going to be a brute of a hole. If I were a betting man, which I'm clearly not, I don't know why you would get that assumption, I would bet that this is going to be the hardest hole on the course this week. Hole 17, very short par 4. Again, looking like it is a forced layup with water on the right. Depending on how this situates, guys might want to try to hit driver here, but it looks like the creek is protecting short, and I don't know how this runoff is. Does the fairway stop here? Does it slope down to that creek? I don't know. But 371 yard par 4, seemingly pretty straightforward. Just find the fairway with a long iron or 3-wood hybrid into a wedge for the green. And then finally, hole 18, 491 yard par 4, so another long, demanding par 4 here with a approach shot or really, honestly, a drive that has to avoid this creek on the right, and then no water in play as for the approach for the professionals. Guaranteed I'm laying about 5 here going into the after chunking a third. So, yeah, so there's the course for Southern Hills. In the comments or in chat, what do you think? Is there anything, or is there any information that you have? Undulating greens, slopes, fast greens. What's the fairways like? Are they slopey or undulating? So that's what I have for you all as far as a pro visualizer look at Southern Hills. Let's go ahead and close that out, and we'll come to Fantasy National. And again, we have quite a few withdrawals that Fantasy National has not put in yet. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of this data that we want to look at. I'm going to bring it in to the past. Yeah, let's just look at the PGA Tour season. And we have 48 rounds from Spawn. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get a comprehensive view here. So the PGA Tour season, let's see. Actually, let's do all records from the 2022 season. You've got 50, yeah, let's bring that in. 36 rounds. And yeah, that's fine. So last 36 rounds, your top performers since the start of the PGA Tour season: Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler, Cam Smith, John Rahm, Rory, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, Hideki, and Shane Lowry. Of course, Hideki's performance not included, I don't think. Yeah, just the Masters. Hey, Josh, long time no see. How you been? How was your Byron Nelson? Haven't seen you in a while. Glad you could jump back in. Thanks for coming back and watching. You just missed the Pro Visualizer run through of the course. So if you missed that, make sure you go back and check it out. Difference between majors and regular events. I would say field quality. Although to be fair, the Byron Nelson this past week was very strong. Field. And then if you take a look at something like Torrey Pines last year, there wasn't a lot they could do with Torrey Pines because there was no water on the course. It was just seemingly just a green mass with holes in it and bunkers and whatnot. But they did a really good job of toughening up the course, narrowing fairways, accentuating slopes and such. So the PGA does a pretty darn good job of setting up courses differently than regular events. And it'll be difficult because Southern Hills hasn't seen play since the 2007 PGA Championship. Now, it did host the U.S. Senior Open, I believe, last year. So it'll be interesting to see if there are any photographs or whatnot from that. But as far as on the PGA Tour, I believe it was last seen 2007 for the 2007 PGA Championship. But there is your look at the top 10 performers so far this PGA Tour season, the last 36 rounds. Hopefully that answered your question, Josh. It's kind of hard to really narrow down because it's really a course by course situation. Really, overarching, I believe it's probably just the field quality and then the difficulty of the setup for each course. But knowing that we are on bent greens, let's take a look here. I'm going to take off the 2022 season filter. Let's look back. Let's go back all the way to January 1st of 2021. Just get a full-on view of bent green performances. So I'm going to filter for bent greens. It's probably fair to say that it would be fast. I'm not going to add any speed filter on that for now. 36 rounds. Let's see. What's the most anybody has? Would be 38, so 36 is actually pretty darn perfect. So your top performers on bent surfaces in the past year and a half, stretching back all the way to the start of the calendar year in 2021. Your top performers on bent surfaces: Rory, Patrick Cantlay, Alex Noren, Troy Merritt, Seamus Power, Abraham Anser, Mac Hughes, Cam Davis, Jason Kokrak, and Cameron Tringali. Okay, so Cameron Davis, his win at the 3M last year came on bent. Mackenzie Hughes, just a great putter in general. Seamus Power, his win at the Barbasol last year on bent. Alex Noren has always been a very good putter on bent surfaces and had a very good week this past week at the Byron Nelson. Don't think a lot of people paid attention. He tied for 12th this week, and you see his historical bent performance. So no surprise there. Rory, his win at the CJ Cup this past fall in Vegas was on bent. So a lot of good stuff here. Zach Johnson, Adam Hadwin, just really good putters in general. DJ, very good on bent surfaces. Ricky Fowler has generally been very good on bent surfaces. It is POA that gives him his troubles. You see he putt extremely well. Oh, gosh, dang it. It's not what I wanted. He putt extremely well at the Wells Fargo, if I could talk. Putt extremely well at the Wells Fargo a couple weeks ago. So, there's a look at the bent performances. Let's take a look at some long course. We know this course is going to be extremely long. So let's take a look at some long course metrics. Again, how many rounds here? Not even 36 rounds for a year and a half on long courses, so that would be fine. Your top performers on long courses, going back to the start of the calendar year of 2021. Those players are Will Zalatoris, Rory, John Rahm, Corey Connors, Chris Kirk, Scotty Scheffler, Johnny Vegas, Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, and Cam Smith. I'd imagine Johnny Vegas is going to rise a little bit, even though he did make the cut to a clunker of a finish, but I imagine his performance is going to rise. Xander's will rise heavily. Spieth's will rise. Chris Kirk plays long courses extremely well. Only 16 rounds, so the API in 2021, the Valero last year, API and Valero this year. All right, let's see. Willie Z didn't play the Byron Nelson. I'm still in the NBA streets. Well, all the power to you. NBA is something that I know absolutely zero about, so I will defer to you for any NBA questions and knowledge. As once the players leave college, I just don't follow. I did see where the Celtics won their Game 7, so I know they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's what I got for you. That's about what I know about the NBA right now. Let's see. If we add difficult to this long course filter, let's look at long and difficult. Let's see if how many rounds those are. 24? Okay. I think that'd be fair enough. Most players are in the teens somewhere, in between 13 and maybe 17. So if we add the difficult filter, so going back to the start of 2021, from January 1st, 2021, performance on long and difficult courses since then. Rory, Victor Hovland, Will Z, Scotty Scheffler, Corey Connors, John Rahm, Xander, Hideki, Chris Kirk, and Justin Thomas. So a lot of the same overlap to be expected. Your major performers, guys who have generally played long courses well. Colin Morikawa, Fitzpatrick has played them well. Hideki, so no real shock here. Something I didn't want to add that. Something else that we can perhaps take a look at. Let's go ahead and take a look at fairways on difficult courses. I imagine that's going to be one of the metrics that we're going to want to take a pretty heavy look at this week. So fairways gained on difficult to rounds to par. So your top players hitting fairways when the round is difficult. You've got Corey Connors, Abraham Ancer, Kevin Streelman, Matt Fitzpatrick, Colin Morikawa, Brian Harman, Richard Bland, Billy Horschel, Tom Hoge, and Keegan Bradley. Probably no surprise that most of these players are not distance, but their accuracy. And then as you go down the page, the more or the less fairways, the more distance you get. Probably makes a lot of sense. But we scroll back up here to the top. Keegan Bradley is at least in the top third of players? No, top 25% of players in distance and 10th in fairways. Victor Hovland, 47th in distance, so right under top 25%, and 24th in fairways. And Davis Riley, 21st in distance and 32nd in fairways. That's a pretty good combination. What are these tournaments? The AT&T, that was, difficult rounds to par. I was going to say, that's not long. Difficult. So he had very good distance at the AT&T. Looks like he missed the cut that year. Last year, Bermuda. Okay. Played well at the Houston. RSM, Farmers, Pebble Beach. Okay. So traditionally has had some good distance and has generally been pretty accurate, but when he does miss, it is usually really bad. So interesting. Okay. Also going to be looking at some scrambling this week. You know that this course is going to be tough, so probably would be prudent to look at scrambling. So the top scramblers when scoring is difficult. Those players are Cameron Tringali, Justin Thomas, Brian Harman, Bezadenhout, Aaron Wise, Ian Poulter, Matt Jones, Matt Fitzpatrick, Sung Jae. That reminds me, Sung Jae is out. So make sure you make note of that. Sung Jae is out. Patrick Reed and Patrick Cantley. So if you missed the rundown of players who have withdrawn or are out already, I cover that right after the intro. And I will update that in front of the shows on tomorrow night, the Data Dive, and Wednesday for the DFS Tactics. But there have been 7 withdrawals so far, most notably Phil Mickelson and Sung Jae, Paul Casey as well. He has not been healthy in a while. So there's your top scramblers when scoring conditions or scoring in a round is difficult. Let's see. Much more that we can look at here. The course breakdown is from Kiowa last year. I suppose we could look at some previous performances here. Bent at TPC Harding. So we might be able to look. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. TPC Harding had Bent that year. Let's see who putt well on those surfaces. So, putting. Your top putter was Colin Morikawa. Explains why he won that year. Victor Perez, Brendan Todd, Justin Rose, and DJ. So there's your Bent performances coming in there. Joel Damon putt well on those bent surfaces. Kisner, always a good putter. Let's see. Victor Hovland had a good week on the greens. Bryson, Scotty Scheffler, Ian Poulter, always good on bent. Tom Hoagie had a very good week that week on the greens. Adam Scott. Let's see. That's pretty interesting. Let's see. Where else can we find in the history bent at Belle Reve? Okay. Let's see how Belle Reve played. That's not what I meant to do. I wanted that. When Brooks won. So strokes gained, putting. All right. So Shane Lowry led that year. Zach Johnson, Matt Wallace, Bo Hostler, Snedeker, Hideki had a good week on those greens. There's Tiger, who finished second to Brooks that year. Okay. All right. Let's see. Anything else that we can look at here? Let's see. So it's always been pretty difficult. Rough is generally long. The speed of the greens is generally lightning or fast. Okay. So take a look at that. I'll probably try to gather some of that data for you all. I probably won't go back too far. Let's see. You got Baltus Raw. You've got Whistling Straits, Valhalla. Valhalla's actually really local to me. So I might go back all the way to 2014, gather the bent statistics for the players in putting that week and see how they did. So, yeah, that might be interesting. I'll do that for tomorrow for the Data Dive show. I'll make sure to have that information for you all. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and write that down so I don't lie to you all. So, gather bent PGA putting. I gotcha. Let's see. Anything else that we think we can take a look at from historical PGA championships here? Maybe not. Let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard from 2007 when Tiger Woods won here at Southern Hills. So Tiger won at a -8. He defeated Woody Austin by 2. Ernie Els, Aaron Oberholzer, John Sinden. So only 5 players were under par. There's Trevor Immelman, the captain of the international team this year for the President's Cup. You've got Ogilvy, Rose, Scott, Pat Perez, Snedeker. Trying to think of other players. So Ian Poulter also played well that week. Vajegas, Stuart Sink, Luke Donald. Okay. I don't have much analysis for you all. I don't know how, what kind of players those guys were, if they were bombers or whatever. Tiger's Tiger. He was great at everything, seemingly. But there's a look at the score, or leaderboard, excuse me. Look at the leaderboard last time this event was held at Southern Hills. Let's see. We're doing okay on time. Here's a look at Windfinder for Tulsa, Oklahoma. And you can see here, again, this is 4 or 5 days out. We know that weather is extremely reliable. It absolutely won't change from this second forward. But it could be fairly interesting Thursday and Friday. Friday, it's looking like, or at least projected, you would have gusts up to 50 miles an hour. That's... I don't know if they would play in that condition, just to be honest. I don't see them playing in that condition. But like this part of the country at this time of year, it's just windy, seemingly. Now it looks like Friday evening into Saturday early morning, looks like they're getting a heavy rain in the forecast. Over 2 inches of rain. And then it looks like the wind drops off and the temperature really cools off. Really dies off. So it looks like they're expecting a front to come in later on in the week. But again, I just brought this up. I took a casual look just to be funny earlier today, not expecting this to be accurate or anything, and I just figured I'd keep it up because I quite literally laughed out loud when I saw 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So hopefully you shared in that little comical moment for me, imagining playing golf in 50-mile-an-hour winds. You can bring up tournament history, see who has played the past PGA championships well. Major Brooks, no surprise, the most strokes gained here the past 5 years. You got DJ, Jason Day, Hideki, Ricky Fowler. Interesting, his top 10 last year at Kiowa, top 5 in 2017, top 15. He's played four of the past 5 PGA championships extremely well. Interesting to see Patrick Cantlay, Justin Rose. There's Gary Woodland, 2 top 10s. Paul Casey, who is out. Remember, Paul Casey has withdrawn, so X that name off. Lowry Spieth. Adam Scott, 2 top 10s, but missed it at Kiowa last year. John Rahm, 2 top 10s. So there's a look at the strokes gained total for the past 5 years at the PGA Championship.